Name something that gets passed around.
A joint.
A joint.
Legalized marijuana is always a very difficult question.
The time is long overdue for us to remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
From now on, I smoke weed exclusively with white people.
Well, I'll get high next time.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man, the Snoopy Poop Dog.
There's definitely cannabis in there, and it makes sure that I can sleep now.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Don't piss off your old dealer.
Marijuana is not the kind of thing that ought to be legalized.
I know you're not supposed to admit that you smoke pot, but I don't drink alcohol.
Let's get out of here. I have some really good weed back at the hotel.
I used to smoke marijuana.
I don't care if an adult wants to smoke marijuana. They shouldn't go to prison for it either.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Time for Toker Talk Radio. So glad to have you here today. I got behind on my prep today. I didn't write out all the little graphics that you see on the screen around here. So my apologies. Those of you listening on podcast, though, you could care less. So I don't feel too bad about it, I guess. It's a great time to be in the marijuana movement, despite everything that's going on with Jeff Sessions and all the scares that we've got going on. This may be the kick in the ass that we need, and I'm heartened by what I've watched. Like I said, I just did this piece on the whole When We Rise. I'm heartened by this because there was another line in When We Rise that I thought was quite analogous to us, or could be. We'll see, I guess. And that was when California's Prop 8 passed, and the leaders of the gay rights movement, this one leader named Cleve Jones, was basically, he said, don't quote me on this, but losing Prop 8 could be the best thing that ever happened to us. And his point was that it's kind of the kick in the ass that his community needed to get past divisions, to get past their internecine squabbles that they have, like every group tends to have. That the disaster of Prop 8 in California was what galvanized people to make the changes that needed to happen. Now, that could be what we're dealing with now in our fight. It could be that if we get a major backlash from Sessions, from Trump, from their administration, cracking down on recreational marijuana, maybe that is the galvanizing event, similar to California passing its Prop 8. This will be our Prop 8. This will be our example of the government's overreach, or of the people's overreach. In the case of Prop 8, I guess it was, because it was an amendment, right? An initiative. But this could be our example, where our people are galvanized to fight against this threat to our way of life, to our civil rights gains. We shall see. Maybe they're smart enough. We've got a piece up on weednews.co where Republican Tick Segerblum from Nevada has said that Trump's an idiot if he goes after marijuana because it's so politically popular. So we'll keep you posted. We'll see what happens. They may be smart enough to not go after us. And if so, then maybe our slow glacial pace of change continues in this country, as far as, from the perspective of getting all 50 states legalized. Maybe. But it doesn't mean we're going to sit back and do nothing. It doesn't mean we're going to just watch as this administration rolls back our gains. We are going to fight it. And part of our fight happens in Congress. I want to give you an update on our petition that we've got out there. If you go to yes, HR 1227, you can get straight to the petition. The folks at High Times have made a great link that goes to my article on it, which you can learn more, and that's at bit.ly /change420. That's a whole lot easier to remember. And yesterday, In just 12 hours, we got the petition over 1,000 signatures. I'm looking at it right now. It's now over 2,000 signatures. A couple thousand signatures in 2 days. That's pretty good. So let's keep pushing that out there. Again, bit.ly/change420. bit.ly/change420. I'll give you all the information you need. I've got some maps posted out there so people can see which states are medical, which states are recreational, which states are CBD only, and which states maintain absolute prohibition. Plus, some information on the Quinnipiac poll that shows that the American people agree with us that the federal government needs to butt out, keep their nose out of the states that have legalized marijuana for recreational purposes. That petition has been started by myself and by Rebecca Lee. She's a children's rights advocate. Originally back in Virginia, she pushed for the return of recess. When they took recess out of grade schools or middle schools, she got recess put back in. This is quite a different fight, but, well, maybe not. It's adult recess, isn't it? All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back and talk a little bit about the supremacy clause of the Constitution, plus how the governors, the Republican governors in marijuana legalization states are facing a hypocritical moment if they deny states' rights to marijuana.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
Great. Drugs make me strong. Drugs make me smart. Drugs make me feel good. Drugs make me cool.
You believe that crap? Huh? You believe all that stuff they're handing you about drugs? You want to believe in something? How about yourself? Don't do drugs.
This has been the Russ Belville Show's anti-drug public service announcement of the day, exclusively on RadicalRuss.com.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
THC levels in marijuana snacks are so high they could kill children and pets.
Okay, maybe you're high too. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they aim you to say that.
Yes, I cannabis.
A public service message from the Russ Belville Show. I have a package here for Radical Rick. Is there a Radical Rick here? How about a Rick Russ? Any Rick Russ? Somebody named Freddie Barack has sent him a package. Anybody? What is that? Sounds like a skunk. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And before we move on to some of the other topics, we've been talking a lot about Canada today. And one of the things I like about Canada is they have civilized healthcare. You know, and that's one of my framing things, folks. By the way, let me give you this note. I don't call it universal healthcare anymore. I don't call it public option healthcare anymore. I don't call it government healthcare anymore. I don't call it single-payer healthcare. I don't call it Medicare for all. I call it civilized healthcare. let's get clear about this. Civilized healthcare. That's what it is. If you do not have this, your nation is uncivilized. Period. And I got this also. Again, I can't tell you how informative this When We Rise was for me in shaping a lot of the ways I'm looking at things, because there was a part in the series where the AIDS epidemic had happened and San Francisco had responded and created all sorts of medical programs for the gay community to deal with indigent people, sick people with AIDS, and getting them health care. Because it was a freaking epidemic. It was imperative that we heal people and figure out how to stop the spread of AIDS before, massive numbers die, right? So they came up with a government-run, city-run paid healthcare system that took care of the people dying of AIDS. And so the conflict that came to rise was that other poor people, straight people with cancer or hepatitis or whatever else, we're kind of looking at a situation where, hey, the gay folks with AIDS are getting treatment, but we're not. And it even showed a scene where Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, actually at the time he was mayor of San Francisco, Gavin Newsom is speaking with a woman's group. And one of the women talks about how she had these, I can't remember what the conditions she had, but she had some pre-existing conditions and she couldn't get any health care for it. And while she didn't purposefully go out seeking to catch HIV, she also didn't really protect herself or worry about it, because her thought was, well, if I get HIV, at least I'll get some health care. And she did end up getting HIV and then getting some health care that helped her to take care of her previously existing conditions. What kind of fucked up system is that? Where someone's incentivized to get HIV just so they can get some help from the government for healthcare. So the gay rights activist, Roma Guy, who was fighting for this and who had been helping people in San Francisco for decades, came upon the idea and met a neighbor whose wife had cancer and was suffering and couldn't get healthcare, and came upon the idea that there needed to be a citywide universal healthcare program for the indigent. The same moral imperative to keep the gay folks healthy, to avoid the epidemic from devastating San Francisco, well, that same moral imperative exists for anybody's sickness, doesn't it? We don't want a whole bunch of people spreading hepatitis. We don't want people suffering from cancer draining our resources, and we want to be able to get them back to work as best we can, don't we? We want people that are injured to be back in the workforce as best we can. But she ran upon a political roadblock as she's trying to get disengaged, because she needed the support from the unions. And the unions were dead set against universal health care. Just the buzzword of it. In fact, the scene at the dinner, he talks about how universal health care is just not going to pass. We can't get universal health care. Too close to socialism, too close to all that. And so Roma Guy just changes the name of it. She called it a medical home. That everybody would have a medical home. And just by changing that little frame there, was able to get the unions on board and able to get San Francisco to pass citywide universal health care for its people. So that's why I'm not going to call it universal health care anymore, or Medicare for all, or public option, or any of that. I'm going to call it civilized care. Civilized health care. A civilized society should have health care. And here's what brings that up. When I go on break, when we're in the commercial breaks, I flip over to the chat room and I see what y'all are saying. I flip over to my Twitter feed to see if there's any breaking news I need to bring in. And then I flit over to Pinterest, little bulletin board program. And, I follow like atheists, and I follow weed, and I follow, a bunch of stuff that, people post. And so I found this one because I follow a healthcare board. And this is from some blog posts or Tumblr posts, I guess they are. And let me just read you the text of this, because this is what really got me riled up about this. In the USA, it's 100 times cheaper to take an Uber to the hospital instead of an ambulance. I don't know if this is true, or having to pay for an ambulance that is taking you to the hospital? That doesn't make any sense. What kind of dystopian world is that? It costs thousands of dollars to ride in an ambulance. In America, some people with chronic health conditions like epilepsy literally have to wear medical IDs that say, "Don't call an ambulance or 911. Some well-meaning person calling an ambulance for you will turn into $1,000 or couple $1,000 that you are on the hook for, even though you didn't make the call. So, public service announcement, if you see someone having a seizure, look for a medical ID. You should only call an ambulance if the person is elderly, pregnant, or the seizure lasts more than 4 minutes. Otherwise, wait for the seizure to pass, then ask the person if they want an ambulance when they regain consciousness." What the fuck? Oh my God, what? Here in Quebec, if you call an ambulance for something they deem non-emergency, you get a bill later for like $180. But if it's for anything like a loss of consciousness, chest pains, labor, whatever, or if you're in the public place and a well-meaning good Samaritan calls 911, it's paid for by the government. Seriously, everything about healthcare in the U.S. makes me want to cry. Imagine a world where you have to wear tags to tell people trying to help you that it's okay, don't try to help. I can't afford to pay if someone tries to save my life. I'll just take my chances and hope it's not life-threatening. That's the post. That's the Tumblr post that's got me all riled up about this healthcare thing. And how ashamed I am of our American healthcare system, where people have to decide in emergency situations whether or not they can afford help. Now, I grew up this way, folks. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here. Like going to the doctor, like I see ads on TV to this day. I'm damn near 50 years old. I'm 49. To this day, I see ads that'll say, ask your doctor about, or if your doctor says, like my doctor, I don't have a doctor. I haven't had a doctor. I've seen doctors, 2 or 3, but like a doctor, like a professional physician with whom I have a relationship, who knows me by my first name, and we've had intimate discussions about my long-term health, and fuck no. I've never had a doctor. When I was a kid, like the rule was something had to be broken or you had to be losing serious blood before we were going to call a doctor. Sniffles, a fever, coughing, aches, psh, a fall, some bruises. Spit on it. Get back to the game. You'll be fine, kid. To this day, I am wearing shoes, like my feet. Like, you should see my toes. I got like ballerina feet, although they're huge. They're not exactly ballerina feet, but I got really more flipper feet. But my toes are like ballerina toes. You know when you see women who've been squeezing their feet into pointy little shoes all their lives, and they got them toes that are kind of form like an arrow almost? That's my feet. My toes do that. I got these crooked up, bent up toes because as a kid, we were so poor that I would keep cramming my feet into the same shoes because we couldn't buy shoes every year or every 6 months or whatever, however you're often supposed to be. And that's my same attitude toward doctors. Like, even as an adult now, it's like, well, nothing's broken. It's just a fever. I'll be fine. Like the idea of just going to a doctor because, hey, I'm sick or hurt and that's where I go is a foreign concept to me. I can't even imagine it. It's just like, go to a doctor? Like, that's for rich people. What kind of civilized society lets its hardworking citizens live this way? And now we've got these discussions, and the Republicans have released their supposed replacement for Obamacare that, again, it's just tax cuts for the rich, bonuses for the healthcare CEOs, fewer people getting coverage, and less of it. Just more of the same, because we can't get our minds around civilized healthcare. How the American people can understand that we don't have private fire departments, right? Like if your house burns down, you don't have to have fire insurance before the fire department shows up and puts that thing out. And they don't bill you for putting out the fire at your house to disincentivize you from not calling them if something catches fire, because we eventually realized, after Chicago burned down, San Francisco burned down, a bunch of places burned down, we kind of realized that the fire at the poor guy's house is just as capable of burning down the rich guy's house.
Denial ain't just the river in Egypt.
So we understand we have public socialized fire departments because protecting one of our houses protects all of our houses, but we can't seem to wrap our mind around socialized health care that protecting one of our people protects the whole herd. Happy 420. I gotta get some health care in me. Be right back.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of The Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
Get the latest updates on The Russ Belville Show by following Radical Russ on Twitter and liking The Russ Belville Show on Facebook. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. Illegal! A public service message from The Russ Belville Show. Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 22 after the hour. I just had to take a little puff. I didn't actually puff during break, so give me just a moment. I'm getting so old and blind these days. Sometimes I miss what I'm lighting. Like if I don't have my glasses on, it's hard for me to estimate where the end of the joint is. I need a caregiver. The other day we were doing a dab and I didn't have my glasses on, right? So we heat up the nail. I got the pick with the dab on it, and I'm bringing it in to touch the nail, and like I'm so blind, I'm so nearsighted or farsighted, whatever the hell I am. I'm so blind that I touched the outside of the nail. I wasted the whole dab. It's just like rolling down the rig. Like, you idiot, put your glasses on. Like, I gotta wear glasses to do drugs now? This is awful. So, anyway, this discussion of healthcare, I got to thinking, when's the last time I rode in an ambulance? And I remembered it. And it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I think. And it was because I had a kidney stone. Now, have you ever had a kidney stone? The women I've talked to about this, including my mom, have said that the pain of a kidney stone is the only thing that approximates the range of pain involved with childbirth. And I'm not even going to cop to it being like childbirth. I can't even say. How would I know, right? I'll cede that one. Let's say it's the second most painful thing possible. Okay. But, yeah, I had a kidney stone. And it was this kind of thing where, like, because you see me, I'm working in this desk, I'm working at this chair. I'm literally at the desk from like 8 in the morning to usually I try to get out by 6 at night. Sometimes I'm going till 8, right? So 10 to 12 hour days I'm at this desk. I'm only getting up to, get lunch, put on a tie, go to the bathroom. So one day I was sitting there working. My lower right back kind of hurt. I thought, it's my posture. I don't have good posture. I'm overweight. My back's kind of hurting. Typical pain kind of thing. And that was in the morning. And then by noon or so, it had turned into this fire, this burning pain in my kidneys. And it got to the point where I'm like, it made me throw up. I was like, had a fever. I'm sweating. And the pain became so intense that I ended up like in a ball. I was curled up in the fetal position, laying on the ground, just in like blinding pain. Like I can't even describe what it's like. It's just the most excruciating pain I've ever felt. It took that and my dog Roscoe whimpering beside me. He was freaked out. Roscoe was freaked. Sitting there licking me like, are you okay, dude? Everything okay? I mean, you're the guy who feeds me, right? Like a dog will do. It took that and literally laying there in excruciating pain with my cell phone in my hand, thinking, oh, this will go away. I don't have to call yet. Oh, it's going to be okay. I don't have to call yet. Oh, it's going to be okay. I don't have to call yet. That's how much the cost of an ambulance ride was weighing on my mind as far as getting to the hospital. And at the time, I didn't know it was a kidney stone. I didn't know what the symptoms of kidney stones are. I had no idea. For as much as I knew I was dying, it took me the pain and fear of death before I'd call an ambulance. And again, yeah, that ended up costing me like, $1,200 or something. And I was so out of my head, I couldn't even think of calling a cab. Of course, Uber didn't exist back then. That's our American healthcare system. And I'm an educated guy. I'm a guy with some resources. I mean, I'm working poor, but at least I'm not homeless, right? I get some writing gigs and some money coming in. And that's what it took me to want to subscribe to our for-profit healthcare system in any way. Imagine what that's like for folks with kids, with infants, working poor people. They're doing 3 minimum wage jobs just to live. Having to every day make decisions about their health, about their well-being, based on whether or not it's going to bankrupt them. And the sad thing is that eventually the healthcare decisions that you could have made if you had some sort of civilized healthcare system that you would have made when you first got the fever or you first got the sniffles could save so much money compared to when you didn't go see the doctor for the sniffles or the fever or whatever the hell. And now you've got, name it, you got the full-blown AIDS, you got the hepatitis C, you got some sort of brain aneurysm, you've got cancer, whatever the hell it was, that had we caught it early, had you been able to afford the $200, $300, $400, $500 visit or the $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 ambulance, if you could afford that, we'd have caught that and it only cost you $4. But now you're going to the ER. Now you've got something serious that requires inpatient treatment and requires long-term care, and now you're costing thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And since you're broke, since you're minimum wage, you can't pay for it. So, of course, that ends up being Medicare, Medicaid, government covered anyway. And then, of course, that leads to the increase in prices of everything. And then you got this system that continues to escalate the prices of our healthcare coverage, of our doctors, of our services, of our materials, where gloves end up costing you $70 and a cotton swab end up costing you $6 and all this ridiculous price inflation because they got to keep making up for all the high cost poor people who we could have saved the money on if they'd just had insurance or had coverage in the first place. Just like the public fire department. Gee, we're spending all this money having to completely rebuild homes from scratch because we let the poor people's houses burn down and they burn down whole neighborhoods. Maybe if we put the poor people's fires out for free, that would save us money in the long run. But God damn it, Americans, we just can't get our heads around this. There is this terrible, terrible, you're on your own attitude amongst a lot of Americans. This idea that I'm going to take care of myself. I'm a fierce individualist. I'm a man, and I'm the master of my domain, and I chart the course of my destiny. Right? And then if you can't do the same, well, it's your fault. You're a loser. You didn't work hard. You're lazy. You're a bum. That's our attitude in America. And so there is this virulent strain of not wanting to help others. Why should I have to pay for so-and-so's hepatitis treatment? Why should I? I work hard, and all these welfare takers are taken from me when I take care of myself, but they're takers. So we got this attitude of not helping anybody. And we know where it leads, because we've been living it. It leads to those people getting help eventually anyway, because, folks, healthcare is not a free market. The idea of a free market is that you have the choice to decide whether or not to buy shit. That's a free market. Like, I can go to Walmart and look at their stuff, and I can look at Target, I can look at their stuff, and I can decide I'd rather buy from Target because Walmart sucks, or I can buy from Walmart because Target sucks. I go to their store aisles and there's something for me to buy, and I can buy this brand or that brand or the other brand because this one sucks or this one's better. Because I've got choices. Or maybe I just don't buy anything at all. I don't want to go to Walmart or Target today. I'm not going to buy a goddamn thing. Healthcare don't work that way. Healthcare ain't a free market. When you're having a kidney stone attack, you don't have a lot of choices. At least I can tell you, I didn't feel like I had a lot of choices. My choice was, hey, I better call an ambulance or I'm going to die. See, these sick people, even when they're poor, have this weird desire to continue living, despite their inability to afford it. Damn it, they just don't go ahead and die when they're too broke to afford health care. They go to emergency rooms and they commit crimes and steal drugs and do whatever it takes to live. What a surprise. Just such a shame. This and from my atheist point of view, it's hypocritically offensive too. I got to deal constantly with a bombardment of reverence, respect, promotion, and admiration for 2 millennia old Hebrew fairy tales. I have to see the symbols everywhere. I have to obey certain cultural mores when it comes to, taking my hat off in their buildings or bowing my head when they say their little secret poems to their invisible sky fairy. I have to deal with their reverence and their beliefs in non-existent things being emblazoned on my money. I gotta deal with them not having to pay taxes for their little social organizations. But if I form a social organization, I have to pay taxes. I have to deal with a society that, despite the fact there's supposed to be a clear wall of separation between church and state, and that the government shall neither promote nor prevent the establishment of religion, despite all that, we quite certainly promote religion like crazy through our government. And I'm generally cool with it. Generally, I can live with it being a reviled religious minority in this country. Generally, I don't have much of an issue with it. But if I have to deal with all that, if I have to accept we're a Christian nation and all of that, then damn it, I expect y'all to act like it. I've read your book. I think that Jesus fella's pretty swell, actually. He's got some really great ideas and some pretty cool philosophies that are pretty damn civilized, especially for the Bronze Age. And I think I recall, hey, it's your God, man. I don't want to misquote or paraphrase out of turn or anything, but I seem to recall this guy talking about helping others and healing others and being kind to one another and treat others as you'd want yourself to be treated and suffer the little children come unto me. And right? Or is this whole Christian nation stuff just about, being in the right God club and showing the right symbols and doing the right secret handshakes and special code words and not really about what Jesus said? Because I can pretty much bet that this character Jesus that you keep telling me about wouldn't be the guy charging $1,000 for an ambulance ride for a poor person who might be dying. But I'm no theologian. Maybe I'm off on that. Look, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's bring the discussion back around to marijuana. This is a marijuana show, isn't it? We got some stories out of Canada, again, on Canadian pot stocks and how they're reacting to Prime Minister Trudeau's recent discussions. And we'll talk about pot for pets and Israel moving forward once again on medical cannabis research. I'm Radical Russ. We're back right after this.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana is 3 times stronger than it was in the 1980s.
All right. Well, maybe you're high, too. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that.
Cool.
A public service message from the Russ Belville Show. Pod 2.0. It's not your father's Woodstock weed. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 37 after the hour, and all across the cybersphere today, a news story from the Associated Press has been making the rounds. I've seen it on ABC News and a bunch of local websites as well. And it has to do with pot for pets. Oh my God. Somebody's getting the pot for the pets, getting the dogs high. So the Associated Press story, Pot for Pets, is out. Owners treat sick animals with cannabis. And it talks about, opens with a guy who's got a 12-year-old dog, got amputated toe and arthritis. And the San Francisco resident gives his dog cannabis extract in yogurt. And he says, quote, "We think it's really lifted her spirits and made her a happier dog. It's not that she's changed. She just got back to her good old self," end quote. So the story goes on to discuss how, states have legalized marijuana and the pet products aren't regulated. And they contain CBD and little to no THC. Well, we know that means that there's very little psychoactive effect for these animals. We know the CBD is good for seizures. We know it's good for pain. And I wish there was more THC in it for these dogs, because we know its effect is good on the neuropathic pain and the inflammation. But for this story, they're talking about mostly CBD stuff for pets. But the veterinarians in this story say there isn't enough scientific data to show cannabis is safe and effective for treating animals. Well, right, there's no data on it because we can't even get studies on human use of medical cannabis, much less canine use of medical cannabis. And there is concern, folks, when it comes to your dogs and weed. And first, the basics. Of course, every animal more evolved than a sea squirt is, in fact, even sea squirts have them, has an endocannabinoid system. This is one of the things we've discovered. Common throughout the animal kingdom, and certainly all mammals, right? Including dogs. So they're going to get benefits from cannabis treatments. Now, we don't know the details on how their receptors might differ from our receptors or how the effects may differ from them to us. Like, what is psychoactive to a dog? What would that be like for them? We have really no idea. But as we can see anecdotally, it seems to work the same. Arthritis, pain, those kind of conditions. I haven't heard of people treating their dogs, sight conditions, like a glaucoma for a dog or something like that. I don't know. But generally speaking, we see it's not hurting them. We see it's giving them some benefit. But there are some concerns that you should be aware about. And the first of which is that we're talking about creatures with smaller body mass, generally speaking, than humans. So you got yourself a 60 to 120 pound dog. You might, the amount of cannabis necessary isn't going to be as much as I'm going to need as a 240 pound guy. Okay. And as we start talking about the little dogs, them little Paris Hilton teacup purse dog type of dogs, too much cannabis can actually be a very dangerous thing for them. So when you smoke pot, how your eyes get bloodshot? Well, the reason that happens is because cannabis is acting as a vasodilator. It's dilating your veins so that more blood's flowing through them, right? Well, if you're a little ass, 4 ounce chihuahua and you vasodilate too much, these little dogs can suffer hypothermia from too much of their blood leaving to the outside, right? To their skin and such. So it can be a concern. I remember one time, one of my ex-wife's dogs, she had a Schipperke that was about 15 pounds. Maybe not even that. Who had gotten into some weed and ended up drooling and kind of shaking and very lethargic. So, it can have deleterious effects. But that was, again, cannabis with THC in it, not just CBD. Now, the veterinarians, of course, they can't prescribe or recommend cannabis for their pets. They risk their veterinary licenses if they do so. And that's kind of interesting in a state where physicians can recommend cannabis to humans. So the vets can't even recommend cannabis, much less prescribe it, according to this ABC AP story. And this is, like I said, this is generating a lot of attention from people that haven't really given this much thought. But to us, it seems like a pretty natural thing. Of course, people are giving their dogs some CBD treats to try to treat their stiffness or their pain. It's a good thing. I'm glad this is happening. And I'm glad more people are becoming aware of this. You'd think with medical marijuana having support of 93% of the U.S. population, according to the most recent Quinnipiac poll, that people would likewise be supportive of medical cannabis for dogs. Let's hope that gets some more attention. Now, we've been discussing Canada all day today. Various Canadian stories, especially that Canadian fentanyl, the marijuana laced with fentanyl, allegedly, that nobody seems to be able to provide a sample of. Like, if this is the big issue, right? Like, folks, I've literally, again, 10 hours a day reading the net, scouring the news feeds, nationally and internationally. And I have yet to find the story that shows that here is the marijuana laced with fentanyl that we got back from the state crime lab, and indeed there is fentanyl on this marijuana that has been prepared for sale. I have yet to find that story. They keep saying they did. Oh, we got a big seizure. We found a big seizure. And then you never hear a follow-up. Because I'm guessing the follow-up is they took it to the state crime lab and found no, it wasn't. And when they get these cases of people that are having adverse reactions to smoked cannabis, there's no follow-up as to whether or not, well, no, wait a minute. Were they using myclobutanil, that terrible pesticide that combusts into cyanide gas when it's aflame? Was there a pesticide involved? Was there anything else involved that had this severe reaction? If we keep hearing this story about fentanyl-laced marijuana in the news media, is that going to lead physicians and first responders to start pumping people full of naloxone when really it was a pesticide issue or it was something else? Some sort of other marijuana contaminant. But anyway, looking at the Globe and Mail today, there is a story up about the drop in marijuana stocks thanks to the government of the government of Justin Trudeau, not his dad, because his pot czar has said they're going to move slowly on marijuana legalization. The lawmaker's name is Bill Blair. He's the former police chief of Toronto, and he's the one who's in charge of Justin Trudeau's legalization effort. Confirms that a bill is due in Parliament this spring, but it won't be the last hurdle, as ample regulatory work remains. The federal government will take its time and work with provinces, territories, and cities to build a framework and develop specific regulations. So, based on that announcement, that we're, quote, "We will take as much time as it takes to do it right," said Mr. Blair. "I'm pretty reluctant to suggest a specific time frame, frankly, because I don't know how long this will take in each of our 10 provinces and 3 territories," end quote. The original estimate, recreational sales could start as early as 2018, but according to the story, the government's plan to introduce legislation in the spring of 2017, quote, "could pave the way for legal cannabis by 2018, end quote, according to Matt Bottomley and Neil Maruoka from Canaccord Genuity Analysis. But now there's this more thought that it might be delayed beyond 2018 into 2019. Blair declined to comment on whether the regulations could be finished by 2018, an expected election year in Ontario, home to Canopy and other companies, or 2019, when the next federal election is scheduled. So great. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have been dragging their feet long enough in Canada that by the time they finally get around to maybe adopting some regulations, it's going to be the next federal election year, and Justin Trudeau's going to have to fight for a re-election. How hard is he going to be pushing cannabis then? What happens if, after all this time, all this foot dragging, they get all these regulations written up and just about ready to pass, but they don't quite get them through the Parliament, and then there's the election, and the Conservatives win, and the next thing you know, there's the reincarnation of Stephen Harper, and all those regulations are thrown in the rubbish. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like, stop dragging your feet. Move. Strike while the iron is hot. You never know what's going to happen after the next election. Well, the Canadian stocks have fallen based on this announcement. Just in the past 5 days, Afria Inc. is down by 5.41%. Aurora Cannabis Inc. is down 10.59%. And Canopy Growth Corporation is down 11.27%. This is just from March 3rd to March 8th. Just in this past week, folks, we're seeing precipitous declines in Canadian marijuana stocks just from these announcements that they're just going to drag their heels. Now, in other international news, we've got news out of Israel from the Times of Israel that says, in a pioneering study, Israeli researchers target autism with cannabis. Parents of children who suffer from the neurodevelopmental disorder are lining up for the new trial, the first of its kind worldwide. Once again, here in America, we got to watch as Israel takes the lead, moves forward, and does some groundbreaking research in the area of medical cannabis. The project, which will test the effects of cannabinoids on 120 autistic children and young adults, is the first of its kind worldwide, said Dr. Adi Aaron, the director of the hospital's neuropediatric unit. The study is made possible by Israel's progressive approach on research on cannabis and has generated interest in the scientific community and among families of children with autism. Quote, our waiting lists are full. Many, many families want to participate, and they come from all over Israel, Aaron said. They hope and they heard from their friends and other families that it might help, end quote. Now, this is fantastic news and something I can corroborate in my history of just reporting on these medical marijuana issues. One of the first stories I did that involved medical marijuana in kids wasn't about childhood epilepsy like all the CBD stories. This was going back to 2007, and a man whose young son had a form of autism caused him to self-harm, had to wear a helmet, beat himself bloody every day. And they give the kid some cannabis oil, and he's mellow and playing with toys and chilled out and just a good little boy. So I've seen this for over a decade now. I'm glad Israel's getting around to studying it.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two and didn't inhale.
Okay, maybe you're high, too. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that.
Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
A public service message from the Russ Belville Show. Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Real quick, we were talking about petitions earlier today. I've got my petition to help Representative Thomas Garrett, the Republican from Virginia, to get a hearing for the End Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act of 2017. You can find that by going to bit.ly/change420. That'll get you there. That'll get you my High Times story on it. And then from there, you can find the link to the survey or the petition. But we've got another petition that we also want you to be sure to sign. And this one does basically the same thing, get marijuana off the Schedule 1 controlled substances list, and it would dovetail nicely into the other petition that we're dealing with. We got a message from our friend Creed Leffler out in Missouri to move forward on this. Let's see if we can hear from Creed from our 650 Legal MJ phone line. He called just the other day. Here's Creed Leffler.
Hello, Radical Russ listeners. My name is Creed Leffler. I created a petition in May of 2016 to get marijuana off of the Schedule 1 controlled substance list for medical research purposes, specifically having to do with cerebral palsy, but not limited to that. Currently, we have 2,541 signatures, but we need many, many more to make a positive difference in the cannabis reform movement. You can email me at creedleffler@yahoo.com, or you can also follow Radical Russ and find my petition that way. I would like to also request some help from The Real Dirt with Chip Baker, as well as Wiz Khalifa. If you all...
Oh, it cuts off there, and that is the voice of a translator. Creed's got difficulty speaking, so he uses some of those access services, so someone's obviously reading from one of his statements. But thank you, Creed, for calling in. We appreciate that, and if you could check out Creed Leffler's petition on change.org as well, and get that signed. Our petition might be catching up to where his is at. Last time I took a look, we were at just over 2,000 signatures, and now we are at 2072. So still doing good on the petition to end the federal marijuana prohibition through the Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act of 2017. Also, I wanted to give a quick note on a study. Now, we'll talk about this to Dr. Mitch on Monday. Every Monday, we speak with Dr. Mitch Earlywine in our Cannabis Q&A segment. We go over the latest studies, the latest surveys, and the latest polls. But I wanted to bring this one up before Monday because I just found it today. Because it's this new study on college-age people and their use of alcohol and marijuana and how that affects or does not affect their studies. How did their GPA turn out? How academically successful were they? And the study makes a big deal of the fact that the kids that, and I say kids, they're young adults, but hey, I'm 49, I have the right. So these kids in college that were non-tokers, non-drinkers, generally had the same GPA. Generally, they did well. It didn't seem to affect them, right? They're the control group. The kids that were drinkers, heavy drinkers, but not pot smokers, didn't do so bad to school either. But the ones that were heavy drinkers and heavy pot smokers, bam, they had a problem. Right? So, as I described that to you, in fact, let me read from the study. Here's the setup for the study. They examined data from monthly alcohol and drug use surveys completed by 1,142 students over 4 semesters starting in freshman year. These surveys asked how many days in the past month students smoked pot or drank, as well as the number of drinks they had on each occasion and when they consumed alcohol. They sorted the students into 3 groups: youth who used little or no alcohol or marijuana, people who drank a lot but didn't smoke much pot, and heavy users of both substances. So can you tell where the problem is in that methodology? Does something, is there a glaring omission there? People that didn't use pot or alcohol, people who used a lot of alcohol but not much pot, people who used a lot of alcohol and a lot of pot, and who are you missing there? The people that smoked a lot of pot but didn't drink a lot of alcohol. We are talking about college students here. That could be a pretty significant group of students, couldn't it? The ones who smoked a lot of pot but didn't drink a lot. So I tweeted that out earlier today, and I got a response from one of my listeners. It says, that's because the ones who just smoke weed were too busy studying to take the survey. Yeah, that could be it. So I want to know, what is the data on the students who smoked a lot of pot but didn't drink alcohol? Now, I can understand the ones who drank a lot of alcohol and smoked a lot of pot having lower GPAs over time. There could be an explanation for that, you know, when you mix marijuana and alcohol, it's a potent mix, folks. We've found that. Like, statistically, the risk of you getting into a crash as a marijuana-only consumer, if you don't adjust for age and gender, is about twice as great. If you adjust for age and gender, it's about the same as a sober person. Alcohol drinkers, just alcohol, below the legal limit, you got about a 5 times greater chance. About a 5 times greater chance of a crash. But when you mix alcohol and marijuana, that jumps to anywhere from 13 to 24 times greater crash risk. Alcohol and marijuana have a synergistic effect. They kind of work to help fuck you up. So, yeah, maybe that would cause lower grades in college. But I want to know, the people who smoked pot only, I'll bet they actually had higher grades than the sober people. We'll find out. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
The Russ Belville Show, where the truth about marijuana gets more than a minute to speak.